Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings from Islamic Renaissance Front. Welcome everyone, distinguished scholars, Dato' Dr. Farid, Professor Bob Hefner, Professor Syed Syed Farid Alatas, Dr. Zainal Bagir, Mr. Azhar. We have friends, we have participants from young scholars from universities, young students, activists, and I'm sure still a lot more still yet to come. Most likely those are the professionals which had to work quite late, maybe perhaps towards late afternoon. I'm sure most of them are still arriving and will join us in no time. So I will start with, of course, thanking every one of you for participating and joining our conference starting today until the afternoon of Sunday, which we are going to have most likely, and I'm sure it's going to be a very lively discussion, very interesting discussion as well, on a very important topic, which I'm sure we are very much interested in and very much concerned on the issue. Friends from IRF, and I'm sure most of us here, we are quite aware of the events of what happened over the past week. I'm sure Dr. Farid himself and a few of our friends in IRF was quite busy since early this week. I'm sure most of you have read from the news the detention of one of our guest speaker in our program last week, Brother Mustafa Akil. He was a guest speaker to speak about several important topics. So one of them, he started with a book launch in which he talked about the topic, the closing of a Muslim mind, of why it is important to address the issue of thinking, rational thinking, to address the issues of our current time. He also talked about the importance of freedom of conscience. And he's supposed to give another talk on the Islamic Jesus, a book which he just written and just newly published, but unfortunately that event was not being allowed to be continued. Why is that the case? And in fact, later after that, he was also quite comfortable on his way back to his own, to the States, in fact, to his new home. He was detained. He was detained, and basically the main reason is that he was said to be giving a speech or talking on something related to Islam without credentials. So the aspect of freedom of speech, the freedom of thinking, and this freedom of sharing an idea is not allowed in this country, particularly if you're talking about Islam. My main question here is this the idea of a civil Islam that we understand? In fact, there are also a few other interesting events which happened. In the social media, it was circulated well about the issue of laundry, which only allowed Muslims only over the past week. Even that became a controversy. In some way, does that represent an idea of the civil Islam that we understand? In fact, over the past few months, over the past years, issues related to Islam have never really, is never really in a situation of silence. There's so many issues, some of them controversial, related to extremism, terrorism, and so many other issues. So this is the reason why, in a way, it is important for us to look into and try to understand back what do we actually imagine as a civil Islam, a religion that we are known, that we are taught, that have actually liberated human society 1,400 years ago, creating a new direction for human, creating a new civilization. But is that same Islam is actually being practiced as we are facing here, not just in Malaysia, but our also neighboring countries in Singapore and Indonesia as well. So to address and to discuss about this issue further, I think I would like to invite the Director of Islamic Renaissance Front, Dato' Dr. Ahmad Farid Musa, to explain more about the lecture, and later to introduce as well our guest speaker, Professor Bob Hefner. Okay, I can give the introduction of Professor Bob Hefner after Dr. Farouk's opening speech to our conference on civil Islam, the prospects and challenges in the 21st century. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ihsan, Prof. Hefner, Prof. Farid Alatas, Dr. Zainal Bagir, friends and colleagues. Welcome again to our second regional conference. This time the topic is on civil Islam, prospects and challenges in the 21st century. I think that because this topic is so important for us, and in order for us to understand what is civil Islam, I think we also have to understand what is Islamism, post-Islamism and civil Islam. Prof. Hefner has written a book, a very interesting book that I've read on civil Islam, and I would suggest that all of you would get a copy of it and read it. It's a very interesting book, and I will not elaborate in detail about what civil Islam is all about, and it's Prof. Hefner will do that. What I'm trying to explain now is that for us to understand a little bit about what is meant by first Islamism. First slide, please. This Islamism refers to those ideologies or movements that strive to establish some kind of Islamic order. So during our time, when I grew up, right, in my younger days, I believe in this Islamism. I was raised an Islamist. So, I basically, all the textbooks of Islamists written by Syed Hassan al-Banna, Maududi, and so on and so forth, were basically, they were our textbooks, right? Ma'alif al-Tariq, milestones. It was, to me, was the most essential textbooks to any Islamist. And we believe in this idea of Islamism where there should be, the idea is kind of a top-down kind of rule, meaning to say that we have to try to achieve power, right? And it is what I said there, the Islamists insistent on holding state power derives from the doctrinal principle of al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahyu anil munkar, commanding good and forbidding evil. And that has become the, even at present time, if you look at Islamic Party in this country, they're still talking about al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahyu anil munkar. So they're against, this beer festival simply because it was on the basis of al-ma'ruf nahi munkar and so on and so forth. Next, as a consequence, this Islamist normative places more emphasis on people's obligations than on their rights. So they're not talking about rights, freedom of conscience and things like that, but they're talking about obligations, what they should do as Muslims and what they should avoid from committing, like committing sins, even personal sins were considered as something which are like something big and something major that like they could as if like in previous times that people divulge into these issues of nitty-gritty issues such as this having some porcine essentials in Cadbury chocolates and stuff like that. People are looking into all these personal sins. So people are perceived as more dutiful subjects than as rightful citizens, meaning to say that they have to obey the command of the ruler and be rather than having their rights as fully as citizens. Next. So now, if you look at what Asif Bayat had mentioned about post-Islamism, it refers to a political and social condition in which, after a phase of experimentation, the appeal, the energy, and the sources of legitimacy of Islamism get exhausted. So, meaning to say that people are not talking anymore about these ideals of Islamism, but people believe in what I normally say in post-Islamism is as simple as giving an example that in order for you to build a road, it's alright if you demolish a mosque. That's the concept, or a simple explanation of what post-Islamism is about. Because basically building a road would benefit people, and having a mosque would just to a certain segment of society. So demolishing a mosque is permissible if you're building a road for the people. So that's, to me, that's an easy way to explain what post-Islamism is all about. So Islam, not like the Islamists that believes al-Islam huwa al-hal. There is Islam is solution to all problem. Now in post-Islamism, Islam is not the solution. So it's not like past. They says that no, you implement Sharia, you implement hudud, then everything is settled. No, that particular idea is, is not acceptable if you believe in post-Islamism. That is why that we have seen that in, I don't know whether you're aware of our situation in this country. I think not long ago, there are many Islamists in the Islamic Party, they did not that. Basically, they became disillusioned with Islamism, and they started to write about post-Islamism, and in the end, they were being expelled from the Islamic Party. And now they form a new party known as Amanah, which is part of the coalition against the current government. Next. So the project of Islamism initially represents as an endeavor to fuse religiosity and rights, faith and freedom, Islam and liberty. Hence, these innovative discourses demanded the true meaning of democracy, individual rights, tolerance, gender equality, as well as separation of religion from the state. So that is why people who believe in this idea of post-Islamism believe that there must be a degree of separation between state and religion itself. And civil Islam, which I believe Prof has explained more, is basically an alternative understanding where Islam isn't corrupted or transformed into a political ideology, nor is a state-centric. The main focus of civil Islam is on spiritual development of individual Muslims and the promotion of the general condition for human flourishing, including a robust civil society, religious freedom, peace, ethics, social justice, economic development, the rules of law, and so on and so forth. Civil Islam is critical of anti-religious secularist ideologies, means that they don't accept this idea of laicite in French, but it is not threatened by the Anglo-Saxon understanding of secularism, meaning to say that they feel secure if the state is neutral, instead of a state being antagonistic towards religion. So that is the laicite example of secularism. Next. In this perspective, so long as core human rights and especially freedom of religion and expression are ensured, then there are no grounds or rational need for seeking an Islamic state. With this understanding of the basic definition of Islamism, post-Islamism and civil Islam, we can have a more intense discussion on this particular topic. And with that, I think I would like to invite Prof to give your talk. Thank you.